Alright, hello students. I have decided to redo the formatting and tips video. Since we are no longer using um, Google Classroom, I decided I should do this so that you can see how to properly do it um, in Word and not using Google Docs or anything. If you use Google Docs, some of this stuff will be different. If you'd like to write in Google Docs, then you'll need to use that, but you may already be familiar with and know how to do all this stuff anyway, if you're used to using Google Docs. But this is in Word. Okay, your papers must be turned in Word into eCampus Ultra. They must be turned in as Word documents or as PDFs. Okay. Um, I'm pretty sure it still, even though it's new, I'm pretty sure it still doesn't recognize like Pages. If you write your paper on a Mac, you'll probably have to convert it to Word or a PDF. But let me show you what your basic format should look like. Okay, so your format should look like this. The very first thing you should do is up in the header. See where this starts here, and I'm gonna make this really basic for those who might not know how to do this. Where your cursor starts here is right under the header. So the header is this top inch of the paper, and the footers is the bottom inch. You ignore that for right now. I just put that in there. I'm going to work on that later, show you that later. So when you want to get into that header up there, the easiest way is just to double click up there in that top inch, and it changes to the header mode. Now what you do is you have to create page numbering up in the header. That's the only thing that goes in the page number, or the only thing that goes in the header is page numbering. Don't put your whole heading up here. This is just where you put your heading, your page numbering. So click on that, go to top of page and pick number 3, and then you'll put your last name and a space, and then you'll just go out here anywhere and double click again, and it'll automatically number your pages for you. So that's how you have to do the page number. Now, immediately under the header, which is right there where you can't go any higher, that's where you put your heading. Now, your heading should have 4 items, starting with your name, and I'm just going to put Tom Thumb, and then your next thing should be your my name, your teacher's name. And in this case, I am Mr. Griever. I did not earn a doctorate, so you don't put Dr. Griever. And then you're going to put the class information, which will be English 102. I don't care about the period, but you can put it there. 102 dash, and then whatever class number you're in. That usually starts with a 7, so I'm just going to put 702 because that's what I'm doing this for anyway. Okay, and then after that you're going to put, and I'm going to put this in asterisk so you know you don't actually type these words. You're going to put the due date here. I say the due date because that way you can just put it one time and forget it. You don't have to change the date every time you work on it or something like that, right? Or you don't put the date you first start working on it. You just put the due date. That's the easiest thing to do there, okay? Now, the format of the due date is technically supposed to be month, day, or I think it's day, month, year. I'm not picky about that, but if you want to do it the exact right way, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be day, month, and year. Okay, and then after you put the date, you go down the next line, and you you go into the center, or easier way is just to click center up here, and you put your creative title, which should be sort of, creative title based on what you're writing, your doing your whatever your topic is. Creative title should be based on your topic. Now, if you're doing an exercise, then you should actually start with the exercise number, which, whatever exercise number it is, and then a colon, and then put the creative title. Okay, so exercises are done that way. But if it's not an exercise, then you don't put anything there other than just your creative title. It wouldn't hurt if you're doing, for example, the report. It wouldn't hurt to say research report, and then the subtitle would be creative. That'll be great. So those things are good. Those are good things to do. And at the end, you'll be doing an editorial. So in that one, you might put editorial colon and then your creative title of the editorial. Okay, but this is the norm. This is technically what you would normally put if you're writing any kind of paper in MLA. Okay, then after that, you go down to the next line and you put it back in the left margin. And then, of course, you have to indent, which just means hitting the tab button once. Don't over indent it. You don't want to hit it twice. Just tab one time in, which is about approximately 5 or 6 spaces or whatever it is. And then you'll start writing your paper. Now, I'm just going to write a bunch of gibberish so that it will drop down to that next line like that. Okay, and when it does that, you'll see it should come down to the left margin. And this is exactly what your whole paper should look like. Each paragraph, not just the first one, but each paragraph should be tabbed in like this. First line tabbed in. And then you'll just be writing your paper, right? You'll write your paper. Now, when you get to the end of the paper, whatever page that ends on, you need to, and if you have to do a works cited page, then you will, oh, wait, before I get into that, let me mention also, notice this excess spacing here, how this spacing here is not as big as this. That has to do with just the way what you really should probably do before you even type your paper is to go in here and set it for 2, but notice it's already set for 2, and yet it's got that excess spacing. I honestly don't know why it does that, but I see that on a lot of your all's papers, a lot of my students' papers. So the only thing you have to do to fix this is you just highlight it, highlight all of it that's extra, which would mean all the way down to this line, and then you go to this button here that has the arrows pointing up and down, and you look for something that says remove, and if it says that, you just click it, and notice how it fixes all the spacing so it's correct. Please make sure you do that so that your spacing should be double spaced all the way through. No excess spacing between parts or paragraphs or anything like that. Now, let's say you finished your paper. Let's say this is the last page of your paper, and this is all you got on the last page. You do not start your works cited page right here. You must go down to a whole new page to start your works cited page. Okay, and in the works cited page, you type the words works cited if you have more than one source. I'm going to have 2 on here because I want to show you a couple different things with those. But if you only have one source on there, which sometimes you might have, then like for an exercise, you might have one source, then you just put work. Okay, but we're going to put works. Now, after that, you put your first entry, and this one I've already done. This one is by just a made up thing, and it just tells you that you should put the title in here in quotation marks with a period. Quotation marks is what you do for a smaller part of a whole. In other words, a smaller part of a source. So let's say it's a magazine. This would be the magazine title, right? And it's in italics. But the article in the magazine, within the smaller part of the whole would be the magazine, the smaller part of it would be the article. That smaller part gets quotation marks. And then the whole gets italics. And then you would have the publisher. In this case, it's a book, so you just have a publisher, and then the page numbering. And let me delete this because first I had that on there because I was going to do that, but on here, but I didn't. I just created a new entry to show you how, like, what it would look like for a online source with a URL and stuff. So, and that's what that should look like, right? Now, what can get tricky is if you copy and paste, as I've done here, if you copy and paste an entry, a citation from something like Citation Machine or EasyBib, first of all, you need to compare that citation that they create to the Easy Writer. You need to look up the Easy Writer, what that's supposed to look like, and make sure it looks correct. Because sometimes I will see this. Sometimes I will see between certain words or parts of a title, I'll see a vertical line, not a diagonal line like this, but a vertical line, and there should never be a vertical line in your entries. So if you do that and you see a vertical straight up and down line here, you need to understand that's incorrect. You should not have, it needs to be deleted, and you need to compare it to the Easy Writer to make sure you actually have got a proper citation. So notice I've copy pasted this in here, and when I copy pasted it, it kind of messed things up. It's not aligned obviously with this, with the above entry. It's a larger font and all this stuff, so it's different. So you got to fix all that. First thing you do is you fix the alignment by tabbing it in, and that should be that easy. If not, you might have to work with it a little bit, but it should be that easy to just tab that in. And then you want to change, well, I would start with the most basics, and I would change to make it hanging indented first. So the easiest way to hang indent is to put your cursor right here in front of the author's name, and then just simply hit the Control T, and see how that does that? Real easy. Does it right there for you just by hitting Control T at the same time. Then you're going to have your author's name and all this stuff. This is how it should look. Now notice this one is in italics. That's another reason why I chose it, because it's the opposite of this. So here you have a major whole. The Guide to Literary and Critical Theory. That's a whole. That would be a part of that would be maybe a chapter or something, right? So since it's the whole, it's in italics, and in this case, the publisher, instead of the source, instead of being in italics, is not in italics. It's in regular print. So that's how you do that. You basically this one is, this one's the opposite, right? And then so now you have your entry. Now let's say you had a bunch of a lot longer URL. Oftentimes when you have a longer URL like this, it's going to do what it just did. It's going to drop the whole URL down here and leave this big old gap. And you don't want that. So if you see a note from me saying break up the URL so it'll move up, part of it'll move up, this is what I'm talking about. You've left this big character space here, blank character spacing, and you want to fill that. The easiest way to do that is just simply to figure out, okay, about how much do I need of this entry to fill the space? I'm thinking maybe about here, and then you hit space bar and boom, it does it. Now if it doesn't do it enough, like it didn't really do it enough even there, I can move it a little bit further to the right, and that way I want to get it as even to the right as I can, and that's pretty good. That will work. And then you have your full entry. The only thing now that we need to do is we need to highlight it, and we need to go up here and we need to click on that up and down arrow and hit double space. And then we need to notice how there looks like there might be some excess spacing here and there. I would highlight the whole thing, and I would click on this and hit remove, and that way I know this is all nicely properly double spaced. See how that works? Now the last thing you would do is, of course, you'd want to make sure all of your wording is in the proper format. This is Georgia, so I got to change that to Times New Roman, and I also got to change the font size down to 12, which is what everything else is in, and that way you've got it all looking perfect. That's it. That's how you should be doing your papers, and how you should be doing the basic works cited. Now this kind of shortened this distance here. I'm not terribly concerned about that, but if you wanted to fix that, you might. Let me see. Would you be able to do this? Yeah. So you could do that to fix that if you wanted to. Especially if you're going to have multiple sources, you want them all, whenever they can, you want them to come all the way to about the even as possible to the right margin. And this would probably be a lot longer title than just one word. The source would probably be more than one word. Page numbering and publisher and stuff might be more, so it might end up being over here to the right as well if this were a fully fleshed out entry, right? So that's what you want to do. And then, of course, any excess spacing here, close that up. Make sure you have a period at the end. In MLA, you should always have a period at the very end of every single entry. Notice this one, I've got a period at the end of it, and I've got a book. So here, just for your all's clarification, I'll put website. Okay? Oh my goodness. I'm learning to spell. All right, that's it. 14 minutes, almost 15 minutes. We got a lot done in that, so I think that's not a bad timing. And as always, if you have questions, if there's something in here I didn't quite cover that you think that you would like more help with, just let me know.